Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Cognition Ignition with C-Class. Today's episode, I will be answering two questions that were left for me on a previous video on my YouTube channel. And the two questions that I'm looking to answer today are: what personality type is my wife? And what should INTPs look for in a potential wife? So before I get into those two questions, I'm going to just share with you 4 universal tips that I would give to anybody who is looking to enter into a serious relationship, a long-term committed relationship. And I think that there's just general rules that you should be using to make sure that you're mature enough before entering into a relationship with somebody else. I also wanted to remind you guys that you should subscribe to my channel if this video helps you, and hit the like button. Also, you can head over to Facebook and find the Cognition Ignition Facebook page and like it. You can join the new Facebook group that I've made, the Fuel Your Fire Facebook group. I don't think there's anyone in it yet, but hopefully soon we have a good community over there. And also I have a podcast that you can listen to wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to follow me personally, you can find me on Twitter. Just look for C-Class and that'll be me. So let's get into the 4 universal tips for anybody who is looking to get into a serious relationship. The first tip I would give is that you really have to work on yourself. And basically, it makes sense when you think that we have to take a lot of time through our youth before we can even consider finding a wife or getting married. So all that time we're spending working on ourselves. But also through your late teens and early 20s, you should be working on yourself a lot. And what this means is like understanding your shadow, your aspiration functions, and to set goals for yourself that you can achieve. Because when you get into any kind of relationship, you don't really want to not bring something to the table. So the goals that you set and achieve before you get married are going to play a big role in how your potential mate looks at you and how they will feel when you guys actually enter into a relationship. Because when you set goals and you achieve your goals, you're going to feel confident to continue setting more goals, harder to achieve goals, but you're going to be able to do that while in a relationship. And if you don't do it beforehand, it's going to be a lot harder, and it may put a lot of pressure on yourself if you have not set enough goals and achieved them before getting into a relationship, because you need to feel confident with yourself before you can go help anybody else. So that's just one simple one. The second one is, I think it's very important that who you keep around you are good people, because it is a reflection of who you are yourself. A lot of people realize that, a lot of people debate that, but the friends and company that you keep around you are important. And so you want to keep good people around you, but also you want to make sure that the relationships you're building are strong relationships, and that you're able to maintain them for a while. This is going to show whoever you are pursuing for a relationship that you are able to maintain strong relationships, and that you're a mature enough person and suited for those long-term relationships. So when you have a lot of friends, or at least a good group of friends, and your friends show that they can rely on you, it's also going to make it easier for whoever you're entering into a relationship to think the same things. Now, the third thing is, I think really important, and I think almost every personality type has a problem one way or another with this, and it's either they give up good relationships because maybe their friends aren't in those relationships and they just want to have fun. But I would recommend that when you do find a really good relationship, you hold on to it, because they're hard to come by. And I think that's why a lot of INTPs wonder about this. And the truth is, it's just not as easy as people make it seem to find a good relationship. And another thing that a lot of INTPs struggle with is getting out of a bad relationship. So you want to make sure that you're not staying in these bad relationships. And what you're doing, building strong relationships with friends beforehand, are the types of things that are going to help you realize when relationships aren't working in your favor, or probably just shouldn't be pursued anymore. And we just have to be quick to get out of those, and not be so quick to get out of the good things that are happening for us. And the fourth one is the most important with any decision you make, and really entering into a relationship and getting married is a decision that you have to intentionally do. You have to be very intent when entering any kind of relationship, and what this will do is help you not waste time. Because if you spend a lot of time on a relationship that you aren't really excited about, then you're going to waste a lot of time on that relationship. So a couple things that you may want to consider to make sure that the person that you're entering a relationship with is suitable for you is to know, what do you really want? Are you really looking to get married, or are you just looking for maybe somebody to have around as a companion more so than just marriage? Are you looking to spend a lot of time with the person, or do you need a lot more time with yourself? And as an INTP, you're really going to have to balance this one out. And it's why I think that you have to make sure you're mature before you just go and enter into a relationship, so that you can spend more time with somebody. But it's just a consideration you have to take. What's your timeline for marriage? What's your timeline for kids? Do you even want kids? Because that's one big factor, is you have to make sure that you kind of agree with each other. Do you guys have similar ambitions? That's important, that you guys are you don't have to be exact. You don't have to be on the exact same path in life, but you both have to realize that you are aiming to end up in similar positions in life. Maybe it's running your own business. If you are set that you want to run your own business and you want to be married to somebody that wants to run their own business, it might not be best to get into a relationship with somebody who says, no, I don't want to run a business at all. So that's one thing. And then even your goals for your family, what type of fun they like to have. Do they want to go on a lot of vacations, or do they rather just stay home when they get a vacation and maybe work around the house, read books and things like that? Because those types of things are things that are a lot harder to work through in relationships most of the time. But if you take the time to really work on yourself, really, that's the most important one. That's why I put it number one. If you work on yourself the most, you'll know going into these relationships pretty quickly if they're going to work out. The only real thing that you have to do after that is, if they're not going to work out, end them a little quicker so you're not wasting yours or anybody else's time. So now that I've given you the basic framework for just general dating, I will get into how to find a potential mate as an INTP. A couple things I want you guys to remember is that there are 265 subtypes. I think it's 265 subtypes. 256 subtypes. So not every INTP is going to take the same path I have. But if you take the time to work on yourself, you can realize what subtype you are and where you are really aiming for your goals and what you want out of life. It has a lot to do with getting into the shadow function. So let's get into this. All right, so to get into this part, I'll share with you what personality type my wife is. And my wife is an ENFJ. And how does that play out? Honestly, before we really got big into personality typing, I kind of always knew that she was extroverted, feeling dominant, without even knowing what extroverted feeling dominant was. I've always said that you can kind of tell extroverted feelers pretty quickly, tell who is an extroverted feeler. And the reason is because they really do naturally just tend to other people's needs and care for other people. And I think that's probably why the MBTI made so much sense when me and her started getting into it. It really kind of explained a lot of our relationship. So as an ENFJ, she is an FE Dom, an introverted intuiting, auxiliary, extroverted sensing, tertiary, and introverted thinking in her inferior position. Now as an INTP, my introverted thinking is dominant. So what I've always considered as an INTP is that I do like people. I want to be able to help other people. The thing is, my extroverted feeling is very inferior. So it's hard to do naturally. And what I have found through my relationship with my wife is that her FE kind of feeds my my extroverted feeling. It allows me to use my introverted thinking better to accommodate my extroverted feeling. Before I met my wife, I was a pretty harsh dude. Like, I didn't necessarily take other people's feelings into consideration, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't understand them so much. And even still today, when I have any issues with personal problems with people, a lot of times I will go to my wife and talk it out with her beforehand, to make sure that I'm not making too harsh of decisions sometimes, because though they logically make sense, sometimes there's a better approach. Sometimes I don't know what to expect when I have to talk to other people. I don't know what to expect with their reactions, or I don't know if they're going to be offended by something I'm saying, because I'm thinking of it in a logical standpoint, and I have accidentally made people upset. So she really helps me interact with people, and because we're together so often, my extroverted feeling has definitely developed a lot more than it ever was. But as an INTP, I think I'm always chasing extroverted feeling, because it's awesome to use introverted thinking and come up with ideas and things like that with my extroverted intuiting. But when I can't share them, or I can't present them to others in a way that allows for harmony, then it's bothersome to myself. So as an INTP, we are always chasing that FE in a way. I think it's one of the hardest for us to get into. And I think when you find yourself an extroverted feeler, it definitely helps. And prior to my wife, prior to meeting my wife, one of my best friends was an extroverted feeler, and I spent a lot of time with him. And you could watch my development of being able to extrovert my own feelings, understand other people's emotions, just through my friendship with him. And then when I married my wife, I can honestly say I became a little more emotional, but I am okay with it too, because I always knew that she brought that better part to me. Where I was very much into the thinking part of anything, she brought the community part of it. She was able to share ideas and things like that. So it works out really well in that sense. At the same time, I think I'm good for her, because when I first met her, she was a hairdresser, and as we dated and got married, we both had our jobs, but eventually came to a point of growth. Both of us decided to grow, and she was going to be opening her own hair salon, which she does run now. And I was able to handle a lot of the thinking that goes into that. At the same time, she was able to use her extroverted feeling to make sure I didn't so much slack on a lot of the things that we were going to have to do for the salon to work out right. And when I'm talking about her extroverted feeling coming into play, it's really making sure that when guests come in, the place is set up right. Making sure that it's decorated nicely, and all those kind of things that are going to make sure that her guests are happy. She also has people who rent chairs in the salon, so she wants to make sure that they're enjoying their workplace. When she can express what is needed, I can figure out the ways of getting them done a lot of the time. But at the same time, I think that if I had jumped into this relationship a lot earlier, it wouldn't be as good as it is, because prior to meeting her, I spent a lot of time really in my shadow functions. I spent a lot of time with SE and TE, because even when I look at the salon, if I wasn't able to use extroverted thinking at all, or even introverted intuiting, because I was going into working on a hair salon for her. I had no idea what I was really doing, but I was able to cross over from a lot of things that I had done previously. So I was able to bring all of my shadow functions to help with that. And I think that's really something that INTPs have to work on a lot, is those shadow functions, because the next part of getting into any relationship isn't really so much about typing, but understanding what you really want out of it. And I think that goes back to number 4 in the beginning. And when you get into your shadow functions and understand them before getting into a serious relationship, it means that you kind of get in touch with your introverted feeling and your extroverted sensing. And extroverted sensing will allow you to leave a relationship quickly when you know it's not good, and it'll allow you to make sure that you don't give up a good relationship. Also, if you work on your introverted feeling and you understand what you really want out of a relationship. What does a relationship that will satisfy you look like? Before getting into that, you can make those types of things clear to a potential mate. And I think that is so important for an INTP, especially because if you get into a relationship and you don't understand your own needs, really, that's what I think introverted feeling comes down to, what you need to feel authentic and true to yourself. If you don't understand those, then those outbursts that you see from inferior introverted sensing and extroverted feeling are going to be worse than if you understand your introverted feeling and can prevent that type of stress in your life. I think a lot of people put themselves, just for the sake of being in a relationship, they put themselves into bad relationships, and it doesn't necessarily even suit their needs or bring them towards their goals. I think it's one thing that INTPs have to work on, and I think when you think of it, one big thing that the introverted feeling will help you understand is, do you want to be alone or do you want to socialize a lot? Generally, we always, if you want to be in a relationship, you have to learn to socialize. No potential wife is going to be okay with you not wanting to go to family gatherings or parties with friends for holidays and things like that. It's very hard to find a mate that's going to be like that. But if you find an extroverted feeler like I did, there's a good chance that they're going to work to make sure that you are happy going to those things, going to those events and things like that. And a lot of times, as a INTP with FE, a lot of times you can help FE users find better ways of keeping harmony in a way. And I think that's what we did with the salon. I think when it comes to family matters, we try to figure out really good solutions on keeping everybody in the family happy. And that's how we work out. Now, when it comes to other personality types, I've dated a lot of different personality types. I would say there's a few that as an INTP you may want to stay away from. I would say probably, and this is specifically relationships and work and other areas of life, I think that every personality type has its benefit for an INTP, but some of the functions that in the dominant position may really butt heads with an INTP, may be introverted feeling and introverted sensing, just because as an INTP it may kind of hold you back a lot with introverted sensing, and the heads may butt just because of values with introverted feeling, where introverted thinking is a lot more open to ideas and possibilities with extroverted intuiting especially. Introverted feeling isn't always going to be so open to those, and when a disagreement happens, it's usually worse than maybe with an FE user. Just because FE users may actually try to understand your emotions, where you're coming from with those thoughts, even if they don't agree with them. And I think that has something to do with FE users having an inferior TI, introverted thinking. They don't want to seem dumb or anything like that. So they understand that, yeah, they put other people first, but if they can learn something, they're definitely going to. Actually, my wife impressed me with that yesterday. We were talking about how your memory, if you weren't paying attention to somebody and they called you out on it, you can still remember the last 3 seconds. And she goes, well, wouldn't them calling you out on it be the last 3 seconds? And I was actually pretty impressed by that. And we laughed about it, I'm like, wow, you're using your introverted thinking. So really, we get to kind of go back and forth with those type of things sometimes. So I would honestly say, as an INTP, FE users are going to understand you. They're going to take the time to understand you. They're going to help you follow through with the things that you want to do. Make sure that you're making the right moves when it comes to other people. And I couldn't be happier with the relationship I'm in. So I definitely would say try it out. If it doesn't work out for you, it could be that the functions that clash, or it could even just be that maybe you're not ready for a relationship at the time. Because when you do decide to get to be in a relationship, you're going to have a lot of give and take. And I think that's why developing extroverted sensing, because you have to adapt to what the other person wants. No matter what type they are, they're not going to never disagree with you. They're never going to want all the same things you want. And if you're not willing to adapt, then it's going to be hard. If you are willing to adapt, you can make other people happy. And hopefully the other person is willing to adapt for you and is mature in the same way. So I think I covered a lot today. This really let me do a lot of introspecting on my relationship. Me and my wife are going to be having a baby within the next 2 weeks. Possibly today I could get the phone call. So it was actually a lot of fun kind of going through like how our relationship works. And now the next chapter in our life is our son coming. And as I've said before, I'm excited to learn about his personality type. And every time I learn about other people's personality type, I find that it allows me to grow. And for my wife, I'm happy that she kind of gets into this personality stuff with me. Like, she really pays a lot of attention to it when I'm talking about it and stuff like that. And when I'm talking about baby development and all that kind of stuff. So, I think a lot of INTPs could benefit from finding similar relationships or similar preferences in people, because you really want somebody who's willing to grow with you. And my ENFJ wife is definitely willing to do that. So if you have any questions, you can let me know. I hope you guys like this video, and you can let me know by hitting the like button. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, the podcast, Cognition Ignition, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.